It's time to get inside the Giants Huddle.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
On Giants.com.
I like it, I like it.
And the Giants mobile app.
Boom, give me some juice.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's roll.
Welcome to another episode of the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Football Giants. A lot coming your way on today's show, a special supersized bonus Friday episode. As always, we'll have Bob Papa with head coach of the Giants, Brian Daboll. Our bonus content is Carl Banks with edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeaux. I speak to Giants edge rusher Jihad Ward, and Lance Medow gets the lowdown on the Raiders from Jason Horowitz. But we're going to start with the man known as Hottie. Now we're joined by Giants defensive end, edge rusher, defensive lineman, Jihad Ward, and we'll talk about all that and more. Hottie, what's going on, man?
I'm good, man. You know what I mean? Just getting ready for the next, you know what I mean? Get ready for Las Vegas. You know, we just came out of practice, so everything's been good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. We're talking after Thursday practice. How has practice been this week? Why don't we start with that?
Practice been real good. You know what I mean? We just next play mentality. You know what I mean? Everybody coming together, and you know, I'm just excited for this group of men that we have on defense. So yeah, I'm just speechless right now.
So let's talk about the defense. I think you guys have played, on a whole, really good football these last 3 weeks. You held the Bills to 14 points, held Washington to 7 points, you held the Jets to 13 points. Unfortunately, the team was not able to finish those games, only winning one of the three, right? So how do you kind of take the performance of the defense as a whole in the context of kind of where the team is now moving forward?
Oh, yeah, you know, defensively, you know, the goal is to not let them score. You know, it's the NFL. We all know that everybody gets paid to do what they do. But it's like, you know, we just got to be unselfish. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's going to be times where I had to be unselfish. There's a lot of role players in here that just that drop sometimes, that rush sometimes and stuff like that. So we just all what can we do to get to the quarterback? What can we do to stop certain plays that our opponents has been making? You know what I mean? So it's just like really just being unselfish, and that's why we've been really dominating on defense and up front and stuff like that.
In addition to the unselfishness, what else have you guys done well on the field that has contributed, you think, to the success that you've had the last few weeks?
Everybody just coming together and believing. You know what I mean? We don't really care about results that much. You know, we just trust the process, and we really just next play mentality. We just got to do what we got to do to come together and stuff like that, and be a sound defense. You know what I mean? Every opponent that we do, we just find out what's their strength, and we just try to knock it off. So, you know, really just whatever we got to do just to shut everything down. We really don't care who gets there. We don't care about the picks and stuff like that. All that stuff going to come, and, you know, the goal is to get there. So we really just want to do our part. You know, we don't depend on nobody on the defense. You know what I mean? That's not the motto. We're not going to be on no blame game. The results is not really how we want it. But if we can control what's going on in the defense and help the offense out as we can, you know what I mean? I've been in teams where we just shut defenses down and stuff like that. So it's a great feeling. And once we have all we got, that's all we need.
Now, something did happen this week to your defense that was out of all of your control. Leonard Williams, one of your teammates, got traded to Seattle. My understanding of how this was presented to the team is interesting. Can you just tell the fans out there how it was presented to you guys and how you think generally the team as a whole kind of accepted what they, you know, when Leo got traded?
You know, when I heard the news and stuff like that, you know, we all know that everything is a business in this game, and that's why I be trying to tell these young cats, because these young cats that we got on our team, they really never seen stuff like that. So we would try to let everybody know it's a business, and that's why one play can change your life and one game can change your life, and we always enjoy the moment. That's why we try and tell people it's a brotherhood, because we don't know who's going to retire. We don't know who's going to get traded or cut. We don't know who's just done with everything. So one thing about this league is nothing but it's a lot of beautiful memories in this league. So, you know, I mean, we can always see Leo off season. We can always see Leo, you know what I mean? As long as he's still in the league and stuff like that, that's all that matters. But we just glad that we wish nothing but the best of Leo, and we love Leo. We love Leo to the fullest. You know what I'm saying? That's my brother right there. And if he's happy, then I'm happy. You know what I'm saying? And not just him, just the whole defense in general. I'm just glad I got a chance to rush with Leo while I was here. You never know. There's always a future. I might rush with him again. But that's the whole process of having good memories and times and stuff. You know what I mean? So when I retire, I can remember that I used to rush with him. I used to do all the off the field and on the field with that man. So it's not really a goodbye to me. It's not really a goodbye to us. So we we wish nothing but the best of Leo. We love him.
Understanding how the organization went about it, talking to Leo about it, from a player perspective, do you appreciate when you see an organization do right by a guy that's done right by the team, has been such an effective player for them over the years?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. You know what I mean? Every player that come in the organization, you know what I mean, we know what type of passion that man have. You know what I mean? Back to Leo's situation. Every time he come in this building, his presence was felt and stuff like that. You could feel the type of incitement, the type of camaraderie, you know what I mean, and the type of stuff that person has. So I'm just kind of, you know what I mean, you don't have players like that. You know what I mean? Usually you have players that just dull. You know what I mean? Once you bring in stuff to the table, it's like you know more like me when I come into the table. I know a lot of people be saying I'm an energy, but you know what I mean, it's more to it than that. You know what I mean? I bring everything to the puzzle, but once you have that stuff got to come within. You know what I mean? So as leadership and stuff like that, that stuff just don't come, oh, I have to do this to lead and stuff. That stuff got to come within.
So how do you guys now react? And there's no replacing Leonard Williams, but how do you try to make up for his loss in terms of leadership in the locker rooms? I know he's a guy that a lot of people went to. They looked up to him. And also on the field, obviously still a very effective player.
Oh, yeah. With that going on being said, you know, we lost a soldier, and it's hard to replace a Leo. And I would say, you know, we have more leaders in here and stuff like that. So it's like, that's just a part of the stuff. That's just part of the game, how everything is played, man. You know what I mean? He really he had a big impact in his team and stuff like that. But the question is, what are we going to do about it? Because I'm pretty sure Leo don't want us to fold. I'm pretty sure Leo don't want us to just give up like that. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So with that being said, it's like we all have to really just go over the bump. We've been there when people get cut. We've been there when certain people don't make the team or get traded and stuff like that. So it's like, are we going to fold or are we just going to keep going? You know what I'm saying? But, you know, you never know. I mean, he had the Seahawks right now. He might miss us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure he got a lot of football in him, so you never know. The man might come back.
Yeah, you're right. You never know. He could be a free agent in the offseason. Who knows what's going to happen with that?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So, you know.
So, on the line now, you have the good news. You have both veteran and young guys now that can try to take up some of the snaps that Leo had, right? You have Big A-Sean. You have Nacho, obviously. You have yourself. You have DJ Davidson. You have Jordan Riley. For you personally, could you see yourself maybe doing some more three-technique rush stuff on passing downs now? Because that was really, on passing downs, his major role, right? You had Dexter killing the center. I'm going to talk to you about him too.
Yeah.
Leo playing that three-tech. Is that a spot where you can maybe see yourself a little bit more on passing downs now moving forward?
Yeah. I mean, not even just me, man. It's just like I said, when we go against opponents, it's just certain players, you know, certain style who can play that role. It's going to be times where even before when Leo came in here, we had certain styles of how we like this to get this offensive tackle or get this center out his way and stuff, like basically get all the weaknesses. What can we do? It could be me. It could be Leo. It could be Dex. You know what I mean? So that's how we really want it. I can play everywhere. You know what I mean? I'm confident. I'm very well confident playing in three. I played in nose and stuff like that. So it's not, you know what I mean? Once we have each other, you know what I mean? We have a great coach, Dre. So it's like, you know, he teaching us everything the same thing that he taught Leo. So, you know, we're very confident in what we're doing.
As you move forward here, how does, as a team, not just the defense now, finish games a little bit better? Because I feel like you're in these games the same way you were last year, right? And last year you won a lot of these close games. This year you've had a couple close games. You haven't been able to close it at the end. As a group, what do you guys need to do better to close out some of these games that are coming down to one scores in the final seconds?
We had to finish 60 minutes. We had to finish the whole game instead of we can't take no plays off or everything, because around this time is middle of the season. I can't even say it's middle of the season, but it gets harder.
These dog days, right?
Yeah, it's dog days. This the time where your body start to break. This the times where a lot of injuries come. It's times where, you know what I mean, people get bored. So what we had to do is not get bored. You know what I'm saying? Offense, defense, special teams, and all that. We have to still be fundamentally sound in all phases. So with that being said, we just got to keep finishing and stuff like that, and always have a next play mentality. You know what I mean? We sometimes it's teams where they had that one play and they just lose confidence. Like, you know, man, they wish they could take that play back.
Sure.
You know, man, it's a lot of plays and right in front of us. That's like, for me, if I mess up one play, I'm not gonna worry about that whole play when I got 40 more plays in front of me. You know what I'm saying? So we just had to. I would say the big emphasis is finish.
No question. No, I'm with you. All right, I'm gonna go through some players here, rapid fire. Dexter Lawrence, third in the NFL in pressures as a nose tackle, which is just ridiculous. You play with a lot of good teams, a lot of good players. You ever seen anybody like that dude?
No, I have not seen no nose tackle really like full force. Like the guy put 3 players on IR. Like that's how crazy it is. You know what I mean? And the thing about it is he's a baby. He's not even a grown man yet, and that's the scary part. You know what I mean? So I applaud him, and I love rushing with him. You know what I mean? He's a big baby. You know what I mean?
How about Kayvon, young man that seems to be coming into his own a little bit here?
Yeah, I love. You know what I mean? Kayvon. You know, I like the growth of him. You know what I mean? You know, last year he was a lot of learning. Now he's just letting it go. You know what I mean? And just, you know what I mean? It's crazy how, you know what I mean, he was just seeing everything and stuff. You know what I mean? He always beats himself up, you know, sometimes. But last year, but you know, I always make sure he was straight and stuff like that. You know, he gonna get there. But now he on a stage where he more is about the team. So whatever he got to do to give his all on the team, you know what I mean? All I can say with Kayvon is, you know, I'm loving the person that he turning into. He's becoming a pro, you know.
Have you noticed the impact that Bobby Okereke has had on this defense as he's kind of figured out this system over the past 3-4 weeks? Because he's all over the field, man. I think he's playing great.
Bobby is smart, and you know what I mean? And, you know, he's a smart linebacker, and I played with him at the Colts, you know what I mean? So he been on it. You know, he was also a guy, you know, I think I was year 4 at the time, and he was a rookie at the time. He really didn't say much, but now he just letting it go. He letting everything go. He know the defense so well. So one thing about Wink is he want everybody versatile. Bobby can play anywhere. Shoot, you know what I mean? So it's just like he definitely taking that role of the pack, you know, in the linebacker phases and stuff like that. So he want everything perfect, but you know, he know that everything perfect. Let's go above and beyond. Sometimes it's impossible to this guy, you know what I mean, to get a first down. But our goal is to not have nobody have a first down or have nobody to score on us. That's the mentality that we have. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's been a little bit successful for us, because nobody should score on us. And if we keep going, like I said, the results is not going to be how it is. Once we have that mindset where nobody can score on us, I think it's just unstoppable. So Bobby, he got the same mentality as me.
All right, finally, the opponent this week. When you woke up on Wednesday and you saw everything going down with the Raiders, you're someone that's been there. You understand what that organization is like. Were you like as blown away as everybody else, or you're like, you know what, it's the Raiders. I kind of get it.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, I got drafted there, so you know what I mean. So I just feel like I treat every game like, you know, it's a rivalry. You know, I don't see how, you know what I mean, this is a revenge game for me. I've been in 6 teams, so it's like, you know. Like, I've been in the Cowboys. I could go on and on.
Too much revenge.
Yeah, too much revenge. So it's like, you know, I just play my game, because the more you think about it, the more you're not going to be in your game. So most of the time I'm going to be happy like, damn, I got drafted here. But, you know, it's time for me to shut this team down as I can. So, but I never really got hyped up. Now, it'd be some personal games, you know what I mean, some stuff like that. But I really don't be fazed by that. But, you know, I just be happy to play any team that I face. But shout out to them, you know what I mean, because they drafted me. But, you know what I mean, no hard feelings with them. So there you have it with that.
No, absolutely. How do you then prepare for that team, right? They're going to play a rookie quarterback. You do have 1 game of tape of him, right, as a starter, and then he played, I think, 12 plays in another game or something like that. But it's a new offensive coordinator. Obviously, they can't tear up the playbook in a week. They're going to have the same playbook. But tendencies can change, right? How they approach it, when they call runs, when they call passes. So how do you guys go about preparing for this, knowing it's going to be similar, but at the same time, it's going to probably be a little bit different too?
Yeah, and that's how it is when you have new coaches, new coordinators and stuff like that. When those type of things like that, you know, we just evaluate every player, their strengths and their weaknesses and stuff like that. And when it comes to, you know what I mean, would they rely on the film, they might change it up, you know what I mean? Some teams change it up in 2 days, you know what I mean? Some people just want to pass it more instead of running the ball and stuff like that. So some people want to run the ball more and stuff like that. So I would just say just learn their strengths and their weaknesses individually, and really just be fundamentally sound. Like, just do fundamental football. It's not about what they do, it's what we do. So it's like, you know, once we have that, you know what I mean, we'll be good.
All right, final question. I talked to Bobby Okereke about this the other day, and he was raving about the player. Your thoughts on Josh Jacobs and what makes him a tough running back to defend and take down?
I think Josh Jacobs is he's one of the top running backs. I like him because he run hard, and you know what I mean. I like he's shifty in power. You don't know what he gonna do. So best thing we gotta do, we just gotta tackle. We can't be having no missed tackles with him, because once you miss tackle, then you know what I mean, there's gonna be a whole nother story. But we like him. We like the way he run. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, we just got to find a way to stop him.
Hottie, good stuff, man. We appreciate the time. Best of luck against the Raiders.
Thank you, man. Go Giants.
You're ready for a change. Payday comes early with Citizens, so go to that retreat. New you moves to the country. Now you're raising goats and launching a lifestyle brand. Are you ready for all that life brings?
That's Jihad Ward. The Giants Huddle podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Giants. From game day to every day, Citizens is made ready for Giant fans with insights, guidance, and solutions. Learn more at citizensbank.com. Now let's turn our attention to the Giants' opponent this week. Lance Medow talks to Jason Horowitz.
Giants head to Vegas for the first time ever to collide with the 3-5 Raiders on Sunday. And to help break down what to expect from the Silver and Black, we're now joined by the play-by-play announcer for the Raiders Radio Network, also a colleague of mine at Westwood One Sports, as well as SiriusXM, none other than Jason Horowitz. Jason, you got Lance Medow here on Giants.com. Hope all is well. How's everything on your end?
It's great. It's been a while. Our faces are a little older. The bags under our eyes are a little larger since we first met a long time ago, but all is well, my friend.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on the program. It's always great to catch up and hear our paths cross with respect to a Raiders-Giants matchup. And Jason's been pretty busy in Vegas, it's fair to say, since unfortunately the Raiders lost to Lions. So let's review. Monday night, after the game, they part ways with head coach Josh McDaniels, GM Dave Ziegler, offensive coordinator Mick Lombardi, while also benching Jimmy Garoppolo. As far as the coaching and GM moves go, I want to focus on that first. This group was only in place for about a year and a half. So what do they think, Jason, this change is essentially going to help ignite here in the second half of the season?
I believe the change is as much about culture, environment, and the belief in the people who were trying to make those decisions, as much as it is about the timing and about, to some extent, the performance. I think, there had been some reports last year that the players, while they trusted the Raiders, the players loved how they were treated within the facility, training, weight room, the 1,300 person survey that happened from the NFLPA, that wasn't necessarily accurate with how players felt about the coaching staff and how they were treated with regards to that. So Raiders ranked so high in so many categories except that one. And, that's only year one. There were so many close games last year, 6-11, yes, but there were a record-setting double-digit halftime leads that were blown. So 6-11 could have easily been 10-7 in the playoffs, and it wasn't. So I think there was a thought that, hey, okay, they come in, they tear it all down. They're going to go with their quarterback. They're going to bring in some of their guys, Jacoby Myers. They get a full draft class. Remember, when they traded for Devontae Adams, there was no draft last year. It started in the third round. So I think there was a thought of, okay, let's see what happens then and go from there. But this is a team that is way too talented, Lance, to be struggling the way that they are on offense. And it's actually, I think, one of the worst in 70-some years for a team to go 8 weeks into the season without some of the numbers they've had. So it's been really bad. And I don't think there was a belief that the coach knew how to fix it. And so you get all of those things in place, some of the cultural stuff that had started to come out, the meeting that happened between the players and the coaching staff the Thursday before Monday Night Football, the embarrassing performance on Monday Night Football, coupled with what happened in Chicago, and you put it all together, and Mark Davis decided that it was time to make a change.
The other thing that's been a bit surprising about this season, Jason, is they bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously has the connection to Josh McDaniels, but Garoppolo's track record has always been a solid pro. He's going to make good decisions, and 9 interceptions this season, which leads the NFL. That was a bit perplexing. So what do they get now by making the move to Aiden O'Connell based on what you've seen so far in a very limited sample size of only 2 games?
So 9 interceptions, and remember, he missed 2.5 games.
Yeah.
So that it makes it worse, really. And it's even more than that, Lance. My partner, Lincoln Kennedy, who I really, really enjoy working with the Raiders on the broadcast. And Lincoln is not one to mince words. And I would use his judgment on this. But as we're broadcasting games and he's talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, particularly the last two that he has played, he's pointing out what he calls happy feet. And, if you're watching the game, you know exactly what that looks like. Someone who's not positive, he wants to throw. He's looking, he's unsure. His feet are just moving. There's nothing settled. There's no confidence there. And in all fairness to Jimmy Garoppolo, how healthy he is. He's had all the injury history, the foot surgery that he had in March. He was healthy enough to be cleared for camp. He had a concussion in week 3. He missed week 4. He had a back injury against, I believe the Packers were week 6. He missed Chicago week 7, comes back against the Lions. He was getting drilled in Detroit. And so you throw all of that together, and what do they get by going to Aiden O'Connell? Well, aside from the fact that the front office, whoever that may be in the future, or the current front office gets a chance to look at a rookie quarterback who was pretty special in training camp and in preseason, there are some within the building who have said anonymously that Aiden O'Connell is their best quarterback right now. And I don't think that's saying that Jimmy Garoppolo's best days are worse than Aiden O'Connell. I think that means Jimmy Garoppolo right now, Jimmy Garoppolo when he has been at his best, including leading a team to a Super Bowl. And so you put those things together, and I think there's a belief that Aiden O'Connell gives them a better chance to win today than Jimmy Garoppolo does. And you get to see the quarterback might be able to be for 9 games.
Now, there's only so many changes that you can implement in the span of a few days, given it's a quick turnaround on Monday night. The reason I bring that up is you got a new offensive coordinator. Interestingly, though, Jason, Scott Turner is also on staff as the passing game coordinator, who called plays for many years with the Commanders. What I'm getting at is, how much do you think Turner perhaps could be involved, maybe not necessarily this week, but moving forward, given the fact that he has a little bit more experience being a play caller?
Yeah, I would guess that there'd be a mixture there. Remember, so they fire offensive coordinator Mick Lombardi, but Mick Lombardi didn't call the plays either. Josh McDaniels was the play caller. So not only were you a degree removed, Josh McDaniels was the play caller. So not only were you a degree removed from offensive coordinator calling the plays, you're really 2 degrees removed, because Bo Hardigree, who's now the interim offensive coordinator, was just the quarterback's coach. But that also means that he was specifically consistently working with Aiden O'Connell. And so you put that together. I think there's a possibility that it's a group effort. Bo's a young coach, but he is, I think, respected in the group. They were excited when they brought him on board. The quarterbacks have talked very highly of him in the past. So I think there's something there. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of collaboration between he and Scott Turner. So there's certainly there. This is, Lance, I'm not really sure, to be perfectly honest, how day-to-day and week-to-week are going to go for this coaching staff. Antonio Pierce has never been a coordinator. He's never been, obviously, a head coach. Patrick Graham has been a coordinator. And while the defense has, struggled a little bit the last couple of weeks, the reality is they've made enough winning plays to win in Detroit, right? It's like if the offense wasn't 1 of 11 on 3rd down and, wasn't struggling so badly to score, then the defense isn't on the field for 42 minutes. There's a combination of all there. And the tackles for loss, the forcing the Lions to 5 field goal attempts, 3 times the Lions had goal to go and had to settle for field goals. Like that's winning defense in today's NFL. And the 3 takeaways, including a pick 6, that's something the Raiders have been really struggling with for years is takeaways. That's the second time in the last 4 games they've had 3 takeaways. So that's a big deal. So I think the defense is getting better, playing well enough to have winning football if the offense holds its water. The question is the offense fixable? And I have to believe with Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs that the offense, and Jacoby Myers, that the offense is fixable if they start running something else.
Well, to your point, they're not lacking weapons. So that brings me to the next phase here. In terms of, Jason, their approach against the Giants. There's a team that has scored 21 points or less in each of their 8 games. What do you think the approach of the new offensive staff is going to be? Are they going to say, hey, Aiden, you got to take some chances down the field? Is it going to be more of a conservative game plan leading on Josh Jacobs? How are they going to manage, you think, trying to attack what's been a pretty solid Giants defense over the last few weeks?
So I would just throw 4 receivers out wide and say, everybody go deep. That's what I would do. Just on the first play, right? What's the worst thing that could happen? We throw an interception, so what? Aiden O'Connell started against the Chargers week 4, and look, it was mixed results. He was sacked 7 times. He was fumbled twice. They lost 2 fumbles in the first half. He threw an interception on 1st and goal from the 3, where the Raiders were going into the chance to tie the ball game late. And so you look at all of that, and you're like, hey, how good was it? The reality was he played well enough to put them in position to come back from all of that. There's something about that. There's something good there. And they did take some shots down the field. There's a couple thoughts in my head where, he took a couple of deep shots to Jacoby Myers. One of them was called back for offensive pass interference, but it was like he put it up there between 2 defenders and put it in a really good spot for Jacoby to go make it play. So I do think there's something there. In that game against LA too, Davante Adams got hurt early in the second quarter and missed the rest of the quarter. So I wonder how much of those sacks were not having Davante out there because he was being looked at in the locker room, and obviously he's healthier now. So I think there's going to be more fluidity is the right word. There just hasn't been a rhythm to the Raiders offense really for 4 weeks. And if there's a little bit more of a balance of a rhythm, then Aiden's going to be fine. Part of that's going to be him though. Like his mental clock has got to be faster than it was against the Chargers. And look, the Giants lost Leonard Williams, right? Traded him to Seattle. So that's certainly helpful. But you look across that defensive line and Kayvon Thibodeaux approaching 10 sacks already on the year. And you throw in Dexter Lawrence, who's a captain and a Pro Bowler, and A'Shawn Robinson's had a bunch of sacks in his career in the NFL. So it's a very difficult defensive line, and that's a problem considering the Raiders have struggled with their offensive line this year.
Well, and that's why also the Giants have been able to capitalize on some of their recent opponents, specifically the Jets last week, even though they lost, because to your point, some of these teams have had trouble handling the front 7. With respect to Davante Adams, he's coming off a game where he had only 1 catch. Clearly, he was frustrated after the game. He's got 78 targets, Jason. In terms of the rest of the league, that's not terrible. But I think
it's top 10.
Correct.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think, and if my numbers are correct, Lance, I mean, he wasn't targeted a ton on Monday. I want to say it was 4 or 5 times. So I think he was like 5th or 6th in targets going into Monday night.
100%. So I guess what I'm getting at is, do you think, though, the philosophy is going to be, well, Aiden O'Connell, second start, Davante, new offense. Let's go out of our way to try to, I guess I'll use force feed for the lack of.
I hope not. So, last week, 2 weeks ago, leading up to Chicago, and remember, that was after a win. They had beaten the Packers on Monday night. They had beaten the Patriots. And again, offensively, it was 17-13 and 21-17. But the 21 was because of a safety. So the offense still has not scored 20. Forget 21. The offense hasn't scored 20 this year. And they're the only team in the NFL who can't say that. But after the win against New England, Davante on Wednesday made the rounds. He was visibly frustrated and talked about the fact he doesn't want to be a selfish player, but for him and this offense to go where they want to go, he has to be great. And they need to get him the football more. Because I think he was targeted like 4 times in that Patriots game. It wasn't a lot. And that made the rounds. And what happened in Chicago, Lance, there were 8 pass attempts in the first quarter in Chicago. He was the target on 7 of them. They didn't score a point. Now, part of that was a 41-yard blocked field goal, but still, like they couldn't even get to the red zone. And it was a struggle all day. So my concern about that, if it's the case with Aiden O'Connell, is, you got a rookie quarterback who's a 4th-round quarterback. If his focus is, hey, we're getting Davante the ball, I don't care who's there, that's a problem. Right? I'm not saying he has to find his 3rd and 4th progressions, but they got to run plays that he's comfortable with. And as Lincoln constantly says and has been telling me now all year, they just don't run stuff that modern offenses run. They don't run enough crossing routes. They don't run enough rub routes. They don't run enough pick routes. And I realize pick routes are illegal, but everybody runs them. They don't. Trey Tucker is the guy they got on the trade for Darren Waller is Trey Tucker, 3rd-round pick out of Cincinnati, and he can fly. Now, he's got some inconsistencies, but in the early part of the season, every time they got him the football, positive play, 30 yards, 15 yards, 8 yards. It wasn't touchdowns, but they were positive plays, pass interference call on the defense. So I think they got to work on getting him the ball too. But the other part to your problem with Devontae Adams is Renfro has been completely excluded from this offense. There was a game a couple of weeks ago. He was on the field for 7 offensive snaps. This is a Pro Bowler from a couple of years ago that they paid $51 million in an extension. Or maybe it wasn't that high. They gave 51 to Waller, but they gave him an extension when they got there. And he's a capable receiver. Michael Mayer, you trade up to draft him in the second round. This is the leading receiver in Notre Dame history by tight ends, and he didn't play a fourth year. Guy can catch. He made a great catch in Detroit the other night. So they have a lot of choices. I think they need to use all of them.
And perhaps we'll see more of that distribution, spread the wealth mentality that you were hitting on, because once again, I echo your sentiments. I don't think it's a question about lacking weapons around the quarterback. Now, speaking of upside, want to flip the script to defense as we're talking with Jason Horowitz previewing Giants Raiders this Sunday, the play-by-play voice for the Raiders radio network. We know Max Crosby is one of the most disruptive players in the NFL. I mean, there's no point in even asking you what he's shown because we know the numbers have proven that and so forth, and he's playing a lot of snaps and he's delivering. But Tyree Wilson, they went out, they got him in the first round. I'm curious, Jason, has he made as much of an impact as you had anticipated or the rest of the organization based on where they took him and Patrick Graham's ability to try to get guys after the quarterback?
No. The answer to that's definitely no. I don't think it's a fully fair answer, though, because he didn't even get on the field in training camp till the end of August. He had foot surgery. He was hurt at the end of November at Texas Tech. And so he wasn't even cleared to come off of the NFI list until the end of August. So I don't think that's a fair answer to the guy that's trying to get up to NFL speed, especially when you think that the Raiders, I know Chandler Jones didn't have the greatest season last year in what has been a really great career. But they obviously expected Chandler Jones to be the one opposite Max Crosby and then working in Tyree Wilson and Malcolm Kuntz as their third and fourth pass rushers. And that obviously didn't happen, right? Chandler Jones had the off the field issues, was arrested, violating protection order a couple of times, was dismissed from the team. And a lot of people have seen some of the, posts he's had over the last couple of months, which have certainly been disturbing. So I think the anticipation was that Chandler Jones would be a much bigger part of this defense. There would be a bounce back from last year of some sorts. He was having a great camp, great off season, and that obviously didn't happen. So Tyree Wilson had to do more than expected. And there's been some moments, there's been some flashes. He's had some efforts where he's put pressure on the quarterback, forced the quarterback to roll out of the pocket. He only has 1 sack, and it was kind of a meaningless play. It was a Hail Mary at the end of the second quarter in Chicago, and the Bears were like 70 yards away, 60 yards. So it wasn't going to result in anything. But I think there is some that he's starting to get it. Like, he graded out really high in Pro Football Focus a couple weeks ago. He's on the field a lot more now than he was earlier. So I think the hope is the second half of the season, Tyree Wilson comes to life and shows what they hoped he would with the top 10 pick. And anytime you draft a guy in the top 10, you assume that he's going to have production. The Lions drafted Aiden Hutchinson number 2, and he's right there with Max Crosby with the most pressures in the NFL heading into last week. And Max, he's just relentless and unstoppable, and his energy needs to carry over to some of the other guys.
Because when we looked at the Raiders defense from last season, obviously they needed more sacks around Max Crosby. So they're still trying to navigate that. I think the other thing that came to mind was more opportunistic plays. They only had 6 interceptions last season. That was tied with the Giants. But as you mentioned, you're starting to see those opportunistic plays. And Marcus Peters came through with 1 to pick 6. However, the run defense, Jason, is what jumps off the page for not very good reasons. They're 30th in the NFL. We know what Jahmyr Gibbs did on Monday night. If you had to pinpoint why that's been such a troublesome area, what's the major problem?
So 2 things. Matt Millen said in the preseason, great linebacker, won 4 Super Bowls with the Raiders and the 9 and Washington too. Raiders, Niners, and Washington. The linebackers are small. Small. Obviously, Matt was a bigger guy, played in a different era of linebackers. But it was concerning to him how the linebackers would fare in the run game. Last year, Denzel Perriman, and he missed some time with injury, but Denzel was more of a thumper. But our guys really struggled last year to cover the pass. And this year, until Monday night, the Raiders had gone 4 straight games allowing less than 200 yards passing, which was the most the Raiders have had consecutively since 2010. So the pass defense had been much better, but the run defense has really been a problem. And it's not that it's not just that you're giving up all the yards. It's that every run is a 5, 6, 7 yard run. And when that's happening, you're not getting off the field, and it's demoralizing and all those things. And that's happening consistently. And it has all year. It's not like it's just Monday or in Chicago. It's really been a problem all year long. And Saquon Barkley, look, I don't know how he's feeling after 36 carries last week, but clearly the Giants, you think, are going to be a team that's going to try to give him the ball 30 times, because there's nothing so far that the Raiders have been able to say it's like, hey, we're going to go out there and stop the run. I also think, though, on Monday night specifically, Raiders did not have Divine Diablo coming into the game. He is one of the 2 starting linebackers and had a pretty good year, really good year in coverage, but a pretty good year. Luke Masterson, who was the one who filled in for him, suffered a concussion early in the game. My assumption is he won't play, but I don't know that for a fact. And you were down to a rookie linebacker who had been inactive the entire season until Monday night. And he was a converted safety to linebacker for 1 year at Florida. So I think that played a role on Monday as much as everything else, and we'll see what happens on Sunday.
A lot of changing dynamics in terms of the players as well as the coaches with respect to the Raiders. Jason, before I let you go, you look at both of these teams, and I would say they're a bit of mirror images on the offensive side of the ball, because the Giants are struggling to put points on the board. The Raiders defense we talked about has come a long way. So has the Giants. Is it fair to say there's going to be a relatively low-scoring, grinded-out affair in your eyes? Or do you think that somebody is going to break out in a certain area that we haven't necessarily anticipated? And I know you have somewhat of an interest in the game, considering, obviously, you're calling it. So I understand your reaction from that standpoint. Yes.
Well, I mean, listen, as the voice of a team, you always hope that the entertainment value is very high. And with the frustration that's been there for the first half of the season from the offense, it's certainly been difficult to call and frustrating and all those things. So I'd like to hope that that's not the case, and that the playmakers on the Raiders have a that maybe there's an awakening. Maybe maybe the problem was Josh McDaniels' play calls. I don't know if that's fully true, and I'm not sure that's fully fair. But when you make the change 8 games into the season, it doesn't happen all that often. For non-off the field related stuff, you hope that sparks something when somebody else is in charge. And in this case, it's a new play caller. It's a new quarterback. The vibe. I mean, I don't know, Lance, if you saw on Thursday any of the videos that were released from people covering the team in Las Vegas. There were some videos in the locker room. There were some videos on the field. It's just a different vibe. Players, I think, I don't know if this is how they've always felt with regards to the coaching staff, but with right now, it feels a little bit more freeing. And there was just a different attitude with the change. And it didn't seem like it's an attitude of, that we're throwing in the towel on the season, we're firing our head coach, forget about it. I think there's an attitude of, hey, 2 years ago, and for very different reasons, right? John Gruden resigned for very different reasons than why Josh McDaniels was fired. Team with some of the same guys on this team went with interim head coach Rich Bisaccia, won a lot of close games and playoffs. And I don't know that this team can do that, but there's a lot of really good players on this team. And I think if they get some confidence for the offense and some rhythm against a good Giants defense, that you'll have a different thought going into the Jets game. And the reality, Lance, is if they beat the Giants and the Jets both at home, 5-5 teams make the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. That's getting way ahead of ourselves here. But I'd like to think that this change allows the guys to play a little bit more relaxed and go from there.
And I did see some of the reports you were referencing. I see some of the beat writers referring to it as the happiest locker room they've ever seen. So if that
weird,
doesn't
right?
tell
It's
you,
weird. It's weird to say that, and I'm not in there. I don't live in Las Vegas, so it's not the week to week thing that I'm with those guys every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But post game, you can tell how guys feel. I mean, it's different post game because you're getting the immediate reactions of disappointments and frustration and all of that. But there's just a different there's a different tone. You know, when you're listening to guys at the podium, when you're hearing what they're saying in the locker room, there's a different tone the last 36, 48 hours. And not that you ever want to root for someone to be let go or lose their job. I really liked particularly Dave Ziegler. I spent a lot more time with him than I did with Josh McDaniels over the last 19, 20 months since I got the job, or less than that, really, 14 months. And I really liked him a lot, personally, professionally, how open he was, how honest he seemed to be, how much information he gave, and really just how he approached me as an individual and as a person. I appreciated every day with Dave Ziegler, and leading up to, including Monday night when we talked on the field in Detroit. So you never want anybody to have to suffer because there's families involved. There's a lot of stuff. And I get the idea that they all understand that that's part of the job, but you never root for that. But that doesn't change the fact that some of the players may feel very differently than I do, or than, with respect to that. So it may very well feel like a very different team on Sunday.
Well, and that's why the Rich Bisaccia example, I think, is great. I was talking with our colleague Rich Gannon earlier this week. He referenced the same thing, and you see the type of change that Bisaccia brought. Antonio Pierce is a former player. We know he's a motivator, so time will tell, and he's going to be motivated going up against his former team. So from that standpoint, we're not lacking storylines coming into Sunday's game between the Giants and the Raiders. I will tell you that, Jason. I don't know what the product on the field is going to be like, but I can tell you there's going to be a lot to talk about, at least. And from a broadcasting standpoint, we're not complaining. He is Jason Horowitz, who you can hear on the Raiders radio network as the play-by-play announcer, also a colleague of mine, Westwood One Sports and Sirius XM. Jason, I can't thank you enough. Really appreciate the time and the insight. Enjoy calling the game and look forward to talking to you down the road.
Appreciate it.
You got it. My pleasure.
You love turf. You're good at it. So you start a turf biz. Business grows, your savings grow. Become the most celebrated name in turf. Are you ready for all that life brings?
That's Jason Horowitz. We thank him for joining Lance Medow here on the Giants Huddle podcast. Giant fans love a winner. It's why they love Citizens, named a 2022 Best Bank in the U.S. by The Banker as the official bank of the New York Giants and sponsor of the Giants Huddle. Citizens is made ready for fans of Big Blue. Learn more at citizensbank.com. Now our bonus content, a very illuminating and interesting sit-down interview between Carl Banks and Kayvon Thibodeaux.
Kayvon, we talk a lot in the offseason, have some candid conversations, and the things that you say to me are like, what do I need to do better? How can what do you see? And then during training camp, you talk to the general media about, you watch film from last year, you're not looking at what you did well, you're looking at what you didn't do. Mm-hmm. Why?
I mean, highlights are what we all see, right? Highlights are easy. You pick out your best plays and people think that that's their resume. But in the league, you start to see that there are so many more plays that go into being a complete player. So for me, coming from my first year to second year, I knew that, okay, the things that I'm good at are my gifts, and the things that I need to get better at need to become my strengths.
It's interesting you say complete player, because there is this public perception, well, he was drafted 5 and he should be doing X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. The complete player, as I see it, is the player who does the things that go unnoticed, but that help his team. And what about that part of your game that you can say, I'm contributing every play, y'all just don't see it?
I think it attributes to football evolving, right? When you looked at pass rushers, when you looked at guys who played my position, who used to play it, it was it was a different body type. They were bigger, they were stronger, they were, more stout. And now we've transitioned to getting as much speed on the field as possible. So if you notice how Wink calls the defense, it's about, doing your job. Everybody a lot of other teams have kind of like a front coverage where you just let, your great players go play. But when you kind of work as a whole team, it's almost like, an orchestra and how it happens. So for me, whether I'm dropping back, making the quarterback, second think, taking a check down or looking at the tight end, or I'm, just holding the edge so that the blitz can hit, so that, because sometimes you have rushers that just go rush, and now the rush and the blitz is not working together. right? So me, sometimes, understanding that, yeah, they're going to send a chip at me, but I'm taking 2 guys so that somebody else is free, or, I'm playing to the slide so that, my other guys can come free and make plays. But, it's all kind of it's a chess game when you talk about, being in certain positions to ultimately come to the, goal.
So you start the season, the splash plays aren't there. It's just the blue collar work, right? Then all of a sudden, these sacks are starting to come in bunches. Was there ever a point, either your rookie year or currently, where you heard the outside noise and started to say to yourself, man, are they using me right? Should I be doing X, Y, and Z?
That's the poison, right? And you talk about the poison, and like everybody who has a plan, when you get punched in the mouth, you get nervous about that plan, and you start to have all these other ideas come in your head, and that's when like the trust and the process, you throw everything out the window and it turns into fight or flight. But I've had a lot of people tell me, over my years that like, you got to stay on the yellow brick road, stick to the script. You can't say the plan doesn't work if you don't give it, your everything. So for me, it's not necessarily that I let it deter me from the mission, but it does start to kind of play in your mind like, okay, well, am I doing everything that I should be doing? It's kind of understanding that like, I just got to stay consistent and keep chopping wood. I can't really, after the first game, people were acting like it was the end of the season, like we didn't have 16 more games, but now we're here and, I just got to keep going.
Before we get into the sack that I labeled the ERD, the electronic revolving door, you seem to be doing different things every sack. It wasn't the same pass rush move, right? Yeah. Were you kind of feeling out the offensive tackle to see what you were going to do next so that he wouldn't expect it? Because you had 2 rushes, 2 sacks off the right side, and then the left side was a move that probably one of the more difficult things a pass rusher can do, to go a full move inside and then get back outside around. In your head, did you say, this is what I'm going to do with it, or it just happened? So
it's funny, take you back to that game. I knew how they were setting, right? I knew 77 was a high hand puncher. I knew his feet kind of got stuck, and then 61, he let a lot of people beat him around the edge. So I knew that, there were certain moves that were going to work. During the game, the first couple moves I threw was I think it was almost the first drive. I threw, it looked like a swipe, but in my head it was a stab club, but it just kind of came just as fast. So, the swipe to the rip, and I got around him. And then after that, I ran a inside move that didn't work versus 77. I knew it didn't work. So I hit him with a jab. I kind of jabbed him and then swiped again and finished outside. And then on that last move, I had went to 61 before, and I tried to run the edge. It didn't work. So then I told myself, like, all right, I'm gonna bring a jab in and see if I can sit him down. And when I jabbed, it felt like I could have took it, but then it's like the quick thinking and the training and all that. Was like, okay, once he played back, I didn't have it, I got back around.
Yeah, that was
I would say that's my best. When I looked at it, I was like, it's probably one of
you should allow yourself to see that one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Right? Like all the other ones, you can say, okay, I can do that. That one, you should allow yourself to see. So you lost one of your brothers via trade, Leonard Williams, right? Great locker room guy. Yeah. Leadership is there. Now that he's gone, is there more on players like yourself to assume that leadership void? I know you lead in your own way, but then when you see a guy like him who leads by example, is there more that you guys feel that you should do, or just do your
Definitely. No, I mean, it feels different. When you're on the field, you usually have another presence, another leader, and now that's gone, another guy is up. Now it's like, okay, a guy like me who's an upcoming leader, it's like, okay, well, it's time. I got to speed up a little bit. Yeah, it's time to grow up, and now know that the other guys stepping in are going to look at me, because now I'm that guy that's kind of next up, or I'm the guy that's making plays.
Last question. You head to Las Vegas. They've had a lot of changes in the last 24 to 48 hours. So different coach, different coordinator. Now it's a different quarterback. What is the process of preparing for a guy that you haven't seen? Is it Let me look at what their offensive linemen do, because those leopards may not change their spot. The scheme may, but those guys. How do you prepare for a quarterback that you haven't dealt with?
So me personally, I always start with the offensive line, right? And every individual player has their tendencies. The NFL has become something of the NBA where guys are matching up, right? So you got to win your one-on-one. So I always start with the O-line and looking at their keys. And then from there, I got to go back and look at the film of, pocket presence and things like that to understand, where does he favor? Most quarterbacks favor a certain tackle, or they drop back, favor a certain side of their body, or even a certain wide receiver, or maybe to the field or to the boundary. So, taking the little keys and little things that I can get and still, being able to focus in on, my main job.
Well, keep up the good work, man, and good luck this week.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate you.
Really a great interview, good insight there from Carl and Kayvon. Now we wrap it up as we usually do. Bob Papa with the head coach of the Giants, Brian Daboll.
The Giants are in Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. As always, we're joined by the head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll. And Coach, obviously you got some good news this week with Daniel Jones able to work his way back. What have you seen out of your quarterback so far this week as far as practice is concerned?
Yeah, he's been on top of the game plan. He's had a good week of practice. He'll be ready to go.
The last time we saw he and Saquon Barkley playing in a game together, you guys put up 31 points in the second half against Arizona. Can you just talk about how it works with those two playing together and how it can create some explosive plays for you guys offensively?
Yeah, I'd say they're two good players. So as many good players as we can have on the field, that's always helpful. Saquon is good both in the run and the pass, and DJ's got a good understanding of what we want to try to do each week. So it'll be good to have them both out there.
Going into the game this week, obviously there have been a lot of changes with the Raiders, but one thing hasn't changed. Max Crosby is someone that you're going to have to deal with. When you throw the tape on, obviously he's a fantastic player, but does the motor that he plays with on every single snap just jump out at you?
Absolutely. He's an unbelievable player. He's got a great skill set, great length, but his motor is off the chart, and the plays he makes, you can make a highlight tape of 4 to 5 to even more plays each game where you're just like, wow, I mean, this guy's an unbelievable football player. He plays with the right mindset, with a great motor, and he's got great talent on top of it.
Coach, the other thing is his football IQ. I mean, we know about his speed. We know how he runs all over the place, like his hair's on fire. But, there was a play in last week's game against the Lions where I think there was a jet sweep motion.
Yep.
And it's like he peeked through and he anticipated and he saw it, and you couldn't block it because he was ahead of it.
Yeah, of all the things I just talked about, he's got great instincts. Smart player. You have to do a good job with this guy because he can wreck a game.
Patrick Graham, obviously you spent time with him. He's the defensive coordinator for the Raiders. What is it about his defense that makes it a challenge for any offense?
Yeah, he's got a variety of schemes. I had a chance to work with Pat back at New England, have stayed friends with him, got a lot of respect for how he goes about his job. And, again, he does a nice job of mixing things up, both zone, man, some pressures, gives you a variety of looks, does a great job.
Obviously, the big change this week with Josh McDaniels being let go and Dave Ziegler being let go. So now you have a brand new head coach, an interim head coach who's never been a head coach before. Is that caused a lot of extra work for your staff this week trying to figure out, okay, what are they going to run and how much can they change? And if they do change a bunch of stuff, where are they changing it from?
Yeah, you evaluate the players on the tape and the games that they've played. It's a player's game. Obviously, AP will have his own stamp of how he wants to do things, and then you adjust throughout the game. But, again, our job is to focus on, their schemes, also their players, and, as the game goes on, like every game goes on, you try to manage it and make adjustments when you need to.
Coach, the Raiders are going to start a rookie quarterback. They've got some weapons both at the running back position in Josh Jacobs, wide receiver Devontae Adams, and I would think with a young quarterback, them running the football is going to be a priority.
Josh is an exceptional player. Had him at Alabama. Got great balance, body control, vision. Obviously a very productive back. So everything always usually starts with the running game, and then their skilled players are very talented. They cause, I'd say, significant issues. 17 is one of the best receivers in the league, and anytime he's in a one-on-one matchup, I'd be looking for him too.
Coach, we appreciate a couple minutes. Best of luck this afternoon. First trip for the Giants ever to Las Vegas, and we hope that you get the winning hand this week.
Thanks, Pop. Appreciate you.
That's the head coach of the Giants, Brian Daboll. We thank you so much for joining us right here on the Giants Huddle podcast. Thanks to Lance and Jason Horowitz, Kayvon and Carl, and, of course, Jihad Ward. Thanks for being with us. It's all brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk. We'll see you next time on the Giants Huddle podcast.